not easy to draw. And we have a very, very topical line of this Berlin with an early capture on c6, leading to these double pawns, and this bishop being very annoying again on the knight on f3, knight c4, f7, f6, as g2, g4 was white's intention. f6 simply defending the pawn on the pawn. Rook b1, looking to expand with e4. Here's a good play, bishop d2. They want to learn either pawn forward with a4, as he's played bishop d2, or to learn the pawn on to e6.
Oh, so Magnus agrees. E6 himself, okay, and then after a3, oh, okay. a3, you can play a4, stopping me from playing b3.
Well, a3, a4, I could then rob you of your two bishops with the move bishop b4, but a3 castles, b4 ad, and why is b4 such a big deal? Bishop.
Right, I kicked you out of that diagonal, but you know you weren't making that big of a use of it anyway. So maybe I should just play the more flexible c3 d4 idea.
c3 d4. And remember, this pin is still annoying, so not that easy to get in.
Not that easy to get everything I want here. Well, bishop e3, bishop e7 have been played, and we're going to have to see what Firouzja is up to, because you're right, yeah, that pin is annoying.
Well, b3 does not inspire me in the least. I am not a fan whatsoever of that e3. And then knight quickly heads to its best square, e6. From the e6 square, it will eyeball the outposts d4 and f4. And furthermore, once your knight is on e6, you can really lock things up on the queen side and stop c3 and d4 forever by playing c6, c5. The opening has been won by Magnus. This has not gone very well for our junior all-star.
That's right. I mean, just a positional masterclass so far. As I gotta love Magnus's position, and now that d1 is a little bit weak.
Not a fan of c3 either, as that just makes pawn on d3 so inviting. You just castle and you start to bring your majors against the d3 pawn, which has got a very clean advantage. Magnus might be looking even for a little bit more, yet he's done it. Queen e7 is he's actually thinking, okay, I'll put my queen on c6.
Breaking news! The game between Laban Aronian and Hikaru Nakamura has concluded with a win for Hikaru. And check out the last move of the game. Just go one move back and you'll see queen c2 get plays. Queen c2, knight takes queen was Laban's blunder.
One flip, right? Now flip queen c4? Or?
Might be, maybe just blindness there again. That's just sometimes you just you forget that the knight's hitting the c2 square. Oh, big win, by the way, for Hikaru.
We were talking about him racketing up his standings. I mean, he's still got a ways to go, but hey, winning in 20 moves against Laban, that's a good start.
That's huge.
Disastrous for Laban.
By the way, I picked Hikaru because I just thought that he was going to do very well in the Blitz. I just didn't realize that he was going to eke out 50% in the Rapid. Normally, the Rapids and Blitz are Hikaru's team, so I was thinking if Hikaru's like in second after the Rapid day or something like that, he would be in good stead, but nope.
Let's go back to Magnus's game, as I want to see how he approaches this positional game, and look at what he's done. He's actually played, after Firouzja played g4, kicking his bishop back to f7, he's played g5 himself, cementing that f4 square for his knight at some point.
Shutting down f4, yeah.
But the thing is, when we play knight f4, you get to take it, right? So which pawn are you planning on recapturing back with?
I wasn't planning on playing knight f4 anytime soon. back. What I really want to do is somehow play king g7, rook h8, and h5. And I don't want you as white to do anything that specifically I don't want you to play the move before. I just want you to sit back and just
No, I want to play
go to
knight.
sleep.
I'll play knight e3 and knight f5. I gotta create some kind of counterplay, but I mean, I guess I have to use the c knight, otherwise the f4 square, you would change your mind and play knight f4 if I don't have a knight on b2 anymore.
Right, but then the question is, how do you move the bishop on e3 so that move knight e3 is even possible? You're gonna have to go.
You gotta update your board, Yaz, because they've already moved
Yeah, they made it
multiple moves. We have h5 on the board. We have the bishop having moves to f2, and this is the moment that possibly a knight e3 could happen, and it actually has happened.
That's why you played king h7 instead of king d7. You didn't want his king to be way in there for that knight f5 check.
So the issue is, will he play knight f4 now as black, because he's uncovering an attack on the b3 pawn? The capture would occur, and then the knight wouldn't be able to go to f5 without his pawn on e3 hanging, although he'll be hitting the bishop. So Alireza has gotten his knight after rook h8 to that really attractive f5 square.
Yeah, I mean, anything could happen in this game. Bishop f8 played by Magnus, who, looking at the clocks, they're actually both keeping pace in this fascinating close middle game. Either of them easily could have found themselves down on the clock, but they're both very practical here. It's not just about playing best moves, it's about playing fast moves.
And the issue of d4 for white starts to loom yet again. Will he be able to play this move and have it make sense?
Well, now that rook can be faded, I want to get my king somewhere where the rook can be unleashed, so no longer can play d7, so maybe I have to play d6 or d8. And he's played your move, Maurice, d4.
Well, it seemed logical given the rook sitting on h8, the queen sitting on c8. It just feels like white has everything ready. Maybe the knight on g2 is the only bad piece here, but it can come into the game quickly. Once we trade off knights on the d4 square, I gotta think that whatever advantage Magnus had, it's being minimized right now by Alireza's play. White looks like it just seems fine.
I
was gonna say, if you're ever going to make a break, like the move before, like Alireza played, do it when your opponent's pieces are passive. Especially on c8, on the h8. Do it now. Don't do it when the guys double up the file, or his queen's on a6 square. It looks like it all comes down to what there is an issue, a potential issue. I want to say, king is on g1, so after we take on d4, knight takes d4 presumably.
Well, knight
bishop
played
b4 happened.
Knight played bishop to b4, now Alireza's in the tank.
Okay,
Been
now
for about 20 seconds now.
which James places.
Gotta go thinking about it, right?
Yeah, that's why he's tanking.
Well, we take twice on d2.
And he's played d5, guys. He's played d5.
Okay.
The idea bishop takes d2, he takes d6, hits that bishop on f7. So if the bishop were to move back, you would get 2 for the price of 1.
The bold move at this moment, Magnus.
I like this move a lot.
Magnus can't be happy seeing this move land on the board. By the way, I'm not even sure you have to take 6 knight, although why not? Just would. But you're starting to notice white's pieces are just expanding as the pawn has rushed forward. c3, d4, exchange, d5. White's pieces have grown in strength on every move to a point where now you can say, man, I can exchange on you. Look at your pieces. Queen's still sitting on c8. Your rook is sitting on h8. Your king, what's it doing on h7? My pieces are starting to look really good, and I think it's black who has to be careful about everything right now. Well, I'm considering taking, I personally would like to take on d2 instead of taking on d6, but maybe, obviously you'd have to consider, but he's played the move knight back to g7.
By the way, breaking news, Lanier's throw was a draw, so if
Well, after this retreat, knight g7, now rook c2, rook c, you want to hit the backward pawn on c7. I don't like that move. If you want to sacrifice a little bit in shape, that's fine. I thought what Jen was saying was you're getting too easy with rook. But he didn't do it. He just played knight g7, rook c2, and he decided that he's going to try to defend this position. I don't like the decision whatsoever that Magnus played. I think his position is terrible, actually. What's there not to like? I mean, every one of his pieces is better. The knight is going to go to g4, the rook is going to go to c6, the rook is going to go to c4, and the queen's going to slide on over to c2. Maybe you defend with bishop d6, but
that's the key word. That's the key word. Defend. And it's a maybe. This position is very attractive now. Although they're both under a minute. Look at that rook plants itself on c6. I wouldn't doubt you'll see a day when that rook finds itself on e6 as well. Knight g4 is also coming into position. Problem big time for the world champion.
I think Magnus knight g7 is that's his bad form. I mean, we talked about the yo-yo that Magnus has been having today, winning and alternating wins and losses. But knight g7, okay.
He played rook h3, king g2, and now he played rook to h8. But that seems to allow knight g4, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Knight g4 hits the f6 pawn, guards h2, and hits c7 all in one move.
Look at that multitasking. Normally when I have a piece that's doing a magnificent job of defending and attacking each position, right? But this is like the multi-purpose knight. It's so good.
Bishop back to d6, and now bishop to g3. Great move, stopping any rook h2 hope. And the knight rook has dropped back. What's the backbreaker though?
Well, aren't we going to go like rook c4 and queen c2?
Is there a knight f6? That's the thing. I was looking at this exact idea. Take on f6 and take on e5. And knight f6 is a threat right now. Knight f6 queen takes e5 is mate.
Beautiful mind.
What?
We prevented it.
He played queen b2. He played queen b2 to sack on f6. So to go back to the game position, he played queen b2, the sack, he strengthened my threat.
That was a really nice line.
He can do it now.
No,
he couldn't do it yet.
Seconds, rook takes c7, he's totally winning. Bishop takes c7, rook c7.
Indeed, he's won the queen. Beautiful play by Alireza. He only has 12 seconds though. He only has 12 seconds. The issue is, will he technically get the job done? As he has taken the queen.
The problem is that it's that e-pawn is beautiful.
The f-pawn is strong, is weak as well.
Bang! Pawn takes e5, rook e5, queen e5, queen e6 is a threat, queen takes h8 is a threat.
Wow.
I have all the threats.
What a blast! Look at this.
Well, king h7, we're not winning material right away. What about, well, I guess queen e6? He's played queen f6 with the subtle threat of queen g6 mate. So, what do you do?
It's terrible.
And e5 on the board, and now it's just a question of getting e6 in at the right moment. Anytime your bishop has to leave after king g3, rook f7. Almost feel like sacking the queen here and taking on a g3. But is that a little too much? And he has blown it. He's let him take the f-pawn. He let him take the f-pawn. He blew the position.
What did you want him to do about this queen?
That's what I was thinking. I wasn't sure, but now he's just blown the game completely. Magnus has taken the pawn on f5, and he is no longer losing. In fact, he might be winning this position, as his pieces are just ensconced on the light switch.
Never easy. Now when you're playing Magnus, and now the question is, Magnus win that e-pawn basically, and the dominoes fall. Well, he has won the e-pawn, at least Firouzja got the f-pawn, the e-pawn now. That's
this is, it's over in 2 rooks and a bishop easily.
Right, we just have to try to stop him from capturing d6, but I don't know how we're going to do that.
Oh, he played king g6, did Magnus. Interesting. I thought he was going to go king e6 and pick up the d6 pawn. This looks pretty good.
Oh man, that was an exciting game,
A5.
guys. Rook a3 played.
What
Oh no, rook f2 check. The rooks are coming for the king.
Yeah.
Bishop c6, the third piece gets into the attack, and now it's going to be mate, rook g2, and rook a1.
Unreal. Magnus survived that. And go back to that position.
Did you see his?
Yeah, he's like totally disgusted at what happened here. Never should have won that game. This position right there. This rook f7. If you take the rook.
Which one?
f7. Don't bring the king closer. Rook queen takes f7. Rook takes and king takes h3. How do you stop these pawns? Just d7 if you do that.
Right.
Rook f8, only move. Or you can take with check, doesn't matter, because whenever you get behind it, e6 followed by e7 followed by queens would have won. That's why we didn't want to take the rook on g7. Take the rook on f7 so the king wouldn't be closer. This would have won in the game.
Queen takes f7.
Queen takes f7 was a killer.
Terrible. Wow.
Well, I imagine he had to.
Are there any games remaining, Jen?